You know what to do, but you don't do it consistently. You set out to do something this week, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen this week, full of enthusiasm, and then get halfway through the week, and then it all falls apart. This is a persistent story for so many people, and I'm sure you've been there yourself. Been so determined, so committed. There's some part of you that wants it so badly, and yet you just can't seem to get it to happen. Why does that happen? Why are you constantly engaged in something, wanting to do it, and yet it just can't seem to happen? If you don't know me, my name is Jeff, and I'm a trainer, a therapist, a hypnotherapist, and I dig into people's mindsets and their habits and all that stuff to get them to follow through on their goals and achieve the body that they want and the life that they want in a realistic way. Understanding how the subconscious mind is really the driver of all of your conscious behaviors, right? So no matter how much you want to do something consciously, you definitely know, I want this in my life, exercising and eating well and being healthy, and yet there's something that's not on board with that and it's constantly sabotaging you. So what we're going to go through in this video is about how to get yourself on track, how to get yourself moving, how to get into things. If you want to hear more, subscribe, keep watching all the way to the end, and share it with a friend if you like it. The reason why it's so difficult to get these things done is because part of you wants this and part of you doesn't. Because people always think, well, if I didn't do it, then maybe I didn't want it enough, or people might accuse you of that. You just didn't want it enough. But the fact is, you do want it. You do want all the good things that you want to do. You want to eat well, you want to exercise, you want to be healthy, but also you want to eat junk food and you want to just laze about and just enjoy life and be comfortable and have all the pleasures. We want both things. We have multiple desires. We have conflicting desires inside of us. It's managing that internal conflict is the name of the game, is the name of this whole game, of everything in life, making positive changes in our lives. It is all about managing the internal conflict of differing desires, opposite desires. To say that you don't want those things is just ignorance and total insanity. Sorry. To deny that you want both these things, that you want the good stuff and the bad stuff. To deny that is a lie. It's a lie to yourself, and it's a lie to anyone that says it. We want all the pleasures in life, and we also want all the benefits of the difficult things that in life. So first up, I want to say that this is an asymmetrical battle here. Like, your subconscious is way more powerful than your conscious mind. So saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to force myself to do all these things, that is a very weak power compared to the subconscious pull towards something, and that's why it's constantly sabotaged, because those subconscious forces within you are overwhelmingly more powerful. So you're fighting a very difficult battle here if you're going to try and dominate. And that's why I'm never in favor of saying just to discipline yourself and force yourself to do things and white knuckle it through. You're not going to be able to overcome the powers of your subconscious. It's not going to work. You have to work with it, right? And also, I would be not a fan of the other common way of thinking, which is to just align yourself, and to make sure that your subconscious and your conscious are aligned. And because I feel like you are going to want the good stuff for yourself, and you're going to want the bad stuff. You're going to want all the healthy foods, and you're going to want all the unhealthy foods. You're not going to get to a point where you don't want those things. It's denying those things. It creates the struggle. You're struggling to not want the ice creams and the chocolates and all those things. You're trying to tell yourself, you don't really want that. You shouldn't want that. And that creates another conflict to overcome. It's not about trying to make sure you're aligned and all of you wants all the same thing. I don't think that's realistic. What I think is to accept the fact that there are warring factions within you, and having a conflict management way of dealing with your internal state, right? It's not actually about telling your other selves to not want those things. That's not going to happen. So it's having a positive communication with each other, right? And understanding each other, the different parts of yourself. So good conflict management is about, firstly, just trying to accept and understand each other, right? So first, if you're just taking a position and then not opening yourself to the value and the validity of the other person's opinion and their position, then you're never going to be able to break through and actually make a connection, right? So if you just sort of staunchly take a position and just have no room for accepting or integrating where they're at, you will definitely fail. So that's why when you sort of deny one part of yourself and say that it's not valid and it shouldn't want it, this other part of yourself you're kind of condemning and shaming and putting down and saying it shouldn't want that and it needs to come over to your side, that is a recipe for failure. Firstly, sitting down and looking at the different parts of yourself and the different things they want and giving them space to be valid, be justified, and know that, look, there's understanding and empathy on to the different parts of yourself. And from there, you make a connection. So you're opening up that connection between the two, and then they can communicate. The different parts of you that want different things can communicate. Where do we want the same thing? We don't want the same thing everywhere, but where do we want the same thing? We both want to be healthy and vibrant and enjoy things more and enjoy life more. The parts of you that wants to eat all the junk food and lays around, that wants to have a good time in life, right? And then so the part of you that wants the healthy things also wants to have a good time in life, wants to be vibrant and energetic and enjoy things as much as possible. Neither one is a punishment. That's really important, It's like denying the part that wants pleasure and excitement, then saying you don't get to have fun anymore. That doesn't help. That doesn't have a sense of connection and empathy. It's not. You cannot condemn and punish one part of yourself. If you're punishing part of yourself, it's just not going to last. It feels very uninspiring and unenthusiastic, and it's just going to cause resentment within yourself. You don't want to have resentment running around inside of yourself. It's not inspiring. It won't get you in the mood. It won't get you wanting to move in the direction that you want to go. Finding that understanding and empathy and connection within the different parts of yourself. Sit down and really talk to yourself. Really find out, okay, we all want to have a good time in life. We're all moving towards a better life here. So the biggest shift comes from when you stop trying to dominate and win against yourself to sort of understanding and integrating. Right, so we're not trying to dominate one part, force it and command yourself to do things, having self-control, controlling those parts of yourself. That is, again, maybe you can do it for a short time. Maybe you can force yourself to do something, but ultimately, it's not going to last, right? So really connecting with yourself and understanding and integrating where you are aligned on wanting to have a better life. That's the thing. Why do you do any of this stuff? Why do you want to do any of this stuff? It's to make your life better. It's to make things more energetic and exciting and inspiring. Like, what else are we doing here, right? I think aligning on that goal, and then ultimately, again, this always comes down to taking responsibility for that. Taking responsibility for the actions that you take. I am where I am. And all I can do is chart the next day, the next step forward. So here's just a simple example for you. So I had this client and he was always going to the petrol station whenever he would go to get petrol and get a packet of chips and a chocolate. Right, and he always used to do this, and it was something he looked forward to. It was one of the simple pleasures in life. And when he's there at the petrol station, there was always this pull towards getting it. It was such a little joy in life. When he started wanting to lose weight and to wanting to get fit and get his health behaviours in check, this was something that was so difficult to overcome, to stop doing, because it was such an embedded habit, and it was something that he just was one of the joys of getting petrol and one of the things he looked forward to in the week. So it just felt like a denial. It felt like, you're taking something away from me, a pleasure that I enjoy so much, and it just feels like a denial. So, and again, this is at a subconscious level, right? So it's not like he was necessarily thinking those exact thoughts, but it's a feeling. It wasn't until we got to unpack and identify that this is the role that it played in his life, this little moment of joy, this thing that he looked forward to, and the role it played and the pleasure that it was sort of giving him. And the connection that he had to it was just all about the pleasure. And it wasn't until got to the point where he could actually see that this behavior was something that wasn't making him better. It wasn't making him feel better. And that it was actually something that's taking away his potential for joy and enjoyment. Until that subconscious shift is made, until that sense of like really examining it and realizing that this isn't really helping align me to more joy and more fulfillment and better things in my life, and that it's taking away from me. It's not contributing to me. It's not creating more pleasure and more enjoyment in my life. It's actually taking away. And until that subconscious shift was made, where it's not a fight. Like I want this so badly, and I'm going to have to deny myself, and then a real win that I had to deny myself. if you're not winning when you're feeling a sense of denying yourself and dominating your sense. I have this desire and I'm dominating myself to make sure I don't do it, to do the thing I want to do. It's until that unconscious sense of understanding, like, this is not helping me and this is not moving me forward. Until that shift happens, it was never going to break that habit. And then once we unpacked all those things and you really got to see that, you really got to see the damage it was doing, you feel a bit, after you have the chips and the chocolate and you feel a bit yucky afterwards, and then week after week you're not losing weight and feeling terrible, and eventually it just becomes obvious, and then that alignment in that sense happened, that you got to see, okay, yeah, this isn't helping me move forward. Resolving that internal conflict by having a sense of understanding and integration had to happen, not by winning, not by beating himself, and not by beating that part up, but by having that true connection and empathy and understanding, and then integrating it into what moves him forward in life. Until that happened, that habit was never going anywhere. It was always going to come clawing back, no matter how much you dominated it. So if this is happening for you, if this is making sense to you, and you see yourself here, let me say, if there is no catch-all solution for this, there is no ultimate way to deal with this. It's a slow process of, and again, I come back to a lot in this channel, the idea that our relationship with food and our relationship with change and these problems, it's like a real relationship. That's not just a phrase or a metaphor. It literally is a relationship. And how does a relationship evolve and grow and get better? How is there become more connection in a relationship? It doesn't happen in one major event. It doesn't happen in one conversation. It happens over time, and it's something that's sustained, or broken down over time with the constant communication that's happening between you two. It's something that's constantly alive. It's never done. There is no point at which this is completely finished and converted and it's all perfect and beautiful. A relationship is a constant thing. It's a constant conversation and back and forth. So what you want to do when in a relationship to promote more empathy and can promote more connection and more alignment is to keep that conversation open and find ways to understand where that part of you is coming from. And it's not something that's ever fully and completely solved, but having that open line of communication and that just stay conscious to what it is you're wanting to get from the behavior. Stay conscious to how it's aligned with where you want to go in life and what's making your life better and more interesting and more exciting and more fulfilling. Stay open to those things. Don't shut yourself down and stay in conflict. It's an alive relationship. However you would bring in more aliveness and more empathy and more connection to your relationship, it's the same way you're going to do that here. Meditate on how your relationship could be better and be more connected, and what the desires of those different parts of you are and how they are all pointed in the direction of making your life better. The more that you concentrate on that, on how your choices are either making your life better or not, then you start to move more in that direction where it's going to take you to a better place in your life. If you know deep down, that this choice is going to make my life worse, it becomes very difficult to make that choice. The more sort of meta-conscious part of you just understands this is not good. This is a choice that is damaging my life. It becomes harder and harder to make that choice. The more aware of that you are, the more conscious of how much this thing is damaging me, the more that you can really connect to that, you'll naturally not want to veer away from that choice. If you think, oh, this thing is going to hurt me, this choice is like smashing my head into this wall, you're not very motivated to do that because it will hurt. So, and then when it becomes similarly, like having that Snickers bar is going to make me feel disgusting and horrible, then you're not generally motivated to do that, right? So connecting to how this is really a damaging experience, and the more that you connect to that and stay connected to that, again, it's never over. Because the Snickers bars are yummy, so you'll probably want one again. So if you allow yourself to go down that road, see, we can change always. We can change for better or for worse always, and that's it's a good thing. It's good for bad things and bad for good things. That we can always change. No matter how good something is, it can always change. No matter how bad something is, it can always change. If you enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe, send it to a friend, and watch it again if you like. All right, and or watch some other videos on the channel. And I'll see you next time.